The devil is saying, prove to me that you really are the Son of God. You show me. It's all about, putting God to the test. God's job is not to meet our expectations of him. Our task is to follow his will. Luke 4, verses 9 to 12. Then he led him to Jerusalem and had him stand on the top of the temple and said to him, if you are the Son of God, throw yourself down from here. For it is written, he will command his angels regarding you to guard you, and they will lift you on their hands, lest you strike your foot against a stone. But Jesus answered and said to him, it is said, you shall not tempt the Lord your God. This quote, he will command his angels regarding you to guard you. That's a quote from Psalm 90 in the Septuagint, 91 in the Masoretic. It's not just testing, but it's almost like a throwdown. Like, okay, God, let's see what you can do. That's the kind of temptation that is referred to in these verses from Psalm 90. And of course, the ultimate temptation then here, the essence of this temptation is it's trying to make God do our bidding rather than us doing his will. In this case, the devil is saying, prove to me that you really are the Son of God. You show me. And then Jesus to say, well, I'll show you because I'm going to jump off the temple and you'll see. And it's all about, putting God to the test. God's job is not to meet our expectations of him. Our task is to follow his will. That's what the kingdom is all about, right? It's the reign of God, the rule of God. The king has absolute authority. And when we say this in the baptism service, I believe in him as king and as God. So I don't get to set the expectations. If you're really God, you will prove to me, you will show to me, that you're your majesty and authority. Because then what am I doing? I'm making myself the center. I'm not putting God at the center. And the Orthodox Study Bible says that trials and temptations come on their own. We should never intentionally expose ourselves to danger in order to test or prove God's protection. To do so is to tempt the Lord. And the other thing that we note here is that Jesus does not debate the devil. He doesn't get into all of this. He simply quotes the scripture. And this reminds us of the Father's advice in our own temptations, which is to ignore our temptations, ignore the demons, ignore the devils and their temptations. Leave them alone, because even in debating them, even trying to resist them, engages them, which opens a place for these things in our life. So the idea is that we take a neutral stance towards these things and allow them to float out of our lives as quickly as they floated in. And then St. Ambrose of Milan talks about why this happens when the devil leads Jesus to the top of the temple. It is the fate of boasting that while a man thinks he is climbing higher, he is, by his pretension to lofty deeds, brought low. Hence it follows, and he said to him, you are the Son of God, throw yourself down. That is truly the devil's language, which seeks to cast down the soul of man from the high ground of its good deeds, while he shows at the same time both his weakness and malice. For he can injure no one that does not first cast himself down. Let's unpack that for a second. So the point is, he takes him to the highest point in the temple, the highest point in the house of God. And he wants those who are ascending in the house of God to throw themselves down. And he cannot injure anyone who does not first cast himself down. The devil cannot force us into sin. He can offer suggestions from the sideline, but he cannot force us to do anything. What's going on here, and again, this is how he's the Lord of lies. This is all illusion, that we think we're lifting ourselves up. when in reality we are casting ourselves down. Remember the Magnificat, Mary's hymn, that he has scattered the proud in the imagination of their hearts. By following the devil's prompting, we are being cast down. We are not actually being lifted up. We're not proving anything. We're not showing any glory. We're in fact doing quite the opposite. And so this is why the temple is important here. That this happens at the temple. That's where this is all going on.
Thanks for listening to this episode of my podcast. You can find my podcast on Anchor FM, Spotify, YouTube, and on my Ko-fi.com account. And you can find links to all of that on my website, fatherajarmus.com. That's FRAJARMUS.com. Again, thanks for listening today. Until next time, take care, and God bless.